तो यार पूरा सरकार चेंज हो रही है एआई और डेटा के थ्रू, ठीक है. तुम भी देखोगे वो रियलिटी होने वाला है कि कस्टमर सपोर्ट इज अ फंक्शन विच विल बी हैंडल्ड बाय एआई. ऑल्दो लॉट ऑफ टाइम पीपल से कि लाइक एआई को पता नहीं कैसे डिसीजन लेना है, कि रिफंड प्रोसेस करना है. नहीं, तुम्हें अभी तक नहीं पता एआई का. So even if like lot of magazines and all the people will call me like heartless and all that, I don't care. It's okay. If if the problem that I solved with AI is actually bringing the efficiency, if the responses are getting like instant, why wouldn't you do that? At least like 100 magazines, right from BBC, New York Times, Washington Post, even Supercar Blondie. I don't know like how the she is related with like AI and all that, but she posted. Then some of like 2-3 Hollywood actors posted my story on Instagram. Ki like, okay, this is the guy who has fired the team. These people are like happy with me. They are not senti with me. तुम अलग से, तुम तो जानते भी नहीं मेरे को. जैसे वो जो जर्नलिस्ट इतने रीच आउट किए, everybody wanted my interview right now. मैं बोला क्यों, अभी क्यों चाहिए? तो बोलती no, this is the hot news that a CEO has replaced 90% of his team. मैं बोला no, you wait no for 3 days. तो बोलती no, I can't wait, somebody else will cover. मैं बोला exactly that's what I'm trying to do. I am giving somebody what he wants right now.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Startup Operator Podcast. I'm Roshan Karyappa. And today we have a returning guest. A few of you may remember Suumit, who appeared on the podcast in November of 2021. We discussed his founding story and the growth after that. A lot has changed in the last couple of years, and so we're going to talk to him about all of those things and what he's doing differently now.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks so much for being on the podcast, Suumit. I mean, it's awesome to have you. I know a lot of things have changed. Why don't you quickly give a recap of what Dukaan is for our listeners?
Sure, perfect. So Dukaan is a e-commerce platform. Anybody who has an intent of starting their own e-commerce store, they can quickly download the app or maybe just go on the web and set all the things pretty much like how the Amazon and Flipkart kind of websites look like. So I think the journey started as a just garage band was trying to do some random things, and it was supposed to be how do we help all the small sellers to solve the problem of going online. So what started as a small that kirana wala ke liye online jane ka platform now is powering like one of the biggest D2C brands of India. Like for example, Wow Science has been using Dukaan. Then there are like a lot of companies who are like pretty well known. They already have started using Dukaan. So the journey in terms of the customer profile, it has evolved from SMB or like a small kirana store to a D2C brand or like enterprises.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So what are some of the milestones along the way? How much funding have you raised? What is your ballpark of revenue, so on and so forth?
Sure, perfect. So I think in terms of funding, I have raised like close to about 150 crore rupees. So that's like close to like $20 million. In terms of the revenue, I won't be able to give the exact number, but it's close to $2 million in recurring revenue annually. And this is just from India.
Right.
But 6 months, 8 months back, I think like we already launched the same platform across 100 plus countries across the globe. So a lot of revenue is coming from like outside India as well now. So there like we'll be focusing like more to expand for the future revenue streams and all that.
Right. So Dukaan was one of those businesses that was born during COVID.
Yes,
right?
that is correct.
Everything shut down offline, and so this whole e-commerce, how do I set up a shop?
Correct.
On my mobile or web became super important at that time, right? So what have you seen after that? Has there been a slowing down of demand on that front? And are you still getting that same enthusiasm from SMBs, Kirana stores and so on?
Right. So I think if you split this thing in like two parts, right? Like first is how many people wants to sell online and how many of them are actually successful selling online. So initially like 3 years back or like 4 years back, pre-COVID, very few people had an interest of selling online. Like if you would go to a small store or like restaurant and you would start pitching them like boss मैं आपके लिए वेबसाइट बनाऊँ क्या, वो बोलेगा नहीं यहाँ पे इनफ धंधा आ रहा है, मेरे को नहीं चाहिए एंड मेरे को सब कुछ ऑनलाइन में घुसना ही नहीं है बिकॉज दैट ऑडियंस इज लाइक आवर डैड और लाइक उससे भी थोड़े ओल्ड वाला
पूरा ऑडियंस है ऑलरेडी उनके,
वो है मतलब ऑडियंस. बट इवन then they have realized na, like the future is going to be like e-commerce and internet. Because when you don't have choices, like when a black swan events like COVID happened, you struggle to even get food for like 2 times if your shop is like shut for like 3 months 4 months, right? So then they realize ki yaar I don't want to experience this, or at least I don't want my kid to experience this, because that's going to happen in like most of the cases कि मैं जो बिजनेस कर रहा हूँ मेरा बच्चा वही आके वही करेगा. लाइक दैट्स हाउ इट स्टिल वर्क्स इन इंडिया. सो दे वुड स्टार्ट आस्किंग द क्वेश्चंस टू देयर चाइल्ड कि यार ये तेरे को पता है कि ये अमेजॉन फ्लिपकार्ट पे कैसे चलता है, मीशो पे कैसे चलता है, यू नो ऑल दैट. देन द गाय वाज लाइक हाँ हाँ मेरे को पता है, ये नया प्लेटफॉर्म आया है, यू नो यहाँ पे अपना ऑनलाइन स्टोर वगैरह बन सकता है. सो द किड इज हैज़ द इंटरेस्ट टू, यू नो, गो ऑनलाइन एंड ऑल दैट. So we solved that problem like beautifully well, because the whole journey of this Dukaan started because I was not able to set up the store using Shopify on the mobile phone, right? It's not built for mobile, because thing is, right, ki you are the first like founder of Shopify and this is like 20 years back. Nowhere in your mind you will think कि like the future of commerce is going to be a mobile, क्योंकि like तब तक तो 6600 था नहीं. तुम स्नेक का गेम खेल रहे हो. Forget about like happening commerce on mobile. Like if you would pitch this idea कि like मैं मोबाइल पे कॉमर्स लगता है मेरा विजन ये है कि होगा, सब लोग पागल है दूंगा.
Fantasy.
But that's a today's reality, right? Like right from your Ludo का game से लेके everything has, you know, shifted on the mobile. So that's the advantage that we have got. कि we know कि वहाँ पे Shopify ने it has already proven has like close to like $5 billion plus revenue and all that. So yes, this field exists. But the way about solving this problem has to be mobile, which Shopify doesn't care about, क्योंकि उसका 0.1% के revenue उसका इंडिया से बनता होगा. So India is just a, you know, ठीक है कर लो यूज़ अगर तुम्हें यूज़ केस फाइंड होता है तो मेरे प्लेटफॉर्म में. So that's how like the present situation for most of the countries, not just for India. Like even if you think about the Indonesia market, right?
Southeast Asia basically.
Yeah, there as well, like you would see कि lot of things are not possible using like mobile phone. And this platform तो like it's just a basic thing to begin with. कि like where you are doing all these activities, how you are setting up the store, how you are delivering the order, how you are collecting the payments and so on. दूसरा इसमें ये आ जाता है कि like whether तुम्हारे कंट्री में जैसे बिजनेस चलता है, वेदर यू आर एबल टू डू दैट बिजनेस यूजिंग शॉपिफाई. स्पेसिफिक थिंग की जैसे कैश ऑन डिलीवरी. कैश ऑन डिलीवरी कंसेप्ट डजंट एग्जिस्ट इन लाइक यूएस मार्केट्स एट ऑल. वहाँ पे सिंपल फंडा है कि लाइक मैं ऑनलाइन ही पे करता हूँ हर एक चीज़ के लिए. इफ समथिंग गोज रॉन्ग आई एम जस्ट गोइंग टू पिक माई कॉल अप, आई एम गोइंग टू रिपोर्ट टू द बैंक दैट दिस गाय हैज सेंट मी द फ्रॉड प्रोडक्ट, रिवर्ट माई ट्रांजेक्शन और माई मनी बैक टू मी. द मनी कम्स इन लाइक जस्ट लाइक दैट. दैट डजंट हैपन लाइक इन इंडिया, राइट? सो कैश ऑन डिलीवरी आ गया. अब कैश ऑन डिलीवरी में देन यू रियलाइज देर इज अ वन सीरियस प्रॉब्लम विच इज can shut down your business. Ki think this way, RTO, which is like return to origin orders. I personally have seen like there are sellers who are getting like close to 80-85% RTO orders. Wow. तो उस केस में like तुम्हारा एक बैच है कि मान के चलो मैंने 100 टी-शर्ट्स मैन्युफैक्चर कर दे. इट्स अ दिवाली टाइम. यू सोल्ड लाइक 100 out of 100 टी-शर्ट्स. 8 दिन तुम्हारा लग गया पूरा शिपिंग करने में. 8 दिन के बाद में किसी के तो घर पे पहुंचा वो पार्सल, ही इज़ नॉट यू नो इन द होम, और मे बी लाइक ही इज समवेयर एल्स, ही इज रिफ्यूजिंग टू एक्सेप्ट द ऑर्डर. Then your product is stuck at like some location. Now you have to create one reverse shipment कि like ले उसके पास से टी-शर्ट वापस आके मेरे को दे करके. इस पूरे प्रोसेस में तुम्हारा 1 महीना चला गया. वो पैकेज पूरा डैमेज्ड है. 100 में से 80 टी-शर्ट तुम्हारे अगर वापस आ गए, तुमने ऑलरेडी हैव स्किप्ड द दिवाली का टाइम, हाउ वुड यू लाइक सर्वाइव द बिजनेस, राइट? सो कैश ऑन डिलीवरी के अराउंड मेरे को एक सिंपल सोल्यूशन ये दिखता है कि मान के चलो पार्शल पेमेंट्स दे दो कि 200 रुपये का टी-शर्ट है, ठीक है 20 रुपये का पेमेंट कर दे, 180 रुपये जब टी-शर्ट घर पे पहुंचेगा तब मेरे को पे करना. नाउ दिस पॉसिबल लाइक सिंपल पॉसिबल थिंग्स आर नॉट पॉसिबल विद यू नो शॉपिफाई, राइट? एंड इवन इफ इट डज, गोइंग वन लेवल डीपर, कि नया सेगमेंट आ गया कि लाइक D2C ब्रांड आ गया फॉर एग्जाम्पल, हु वांट्स टू क्रिएट डिफरेंट बंडल्स ऑफ द प्रोडक्ट्स विच आर लिंक्ड विद द से रिवॉर्ड पॉइंट्स. कि दिवाली के टाइम पे मेरे को इस बंडल पे इतने रिवॉर्ड पॉइंट्स देने हैं जो सिर्फ इतने दिन तक यूज हो सकते हैं, एंड यू आर गोइंग टू कन्वर्ट यू नो द रिफंड एंड एवरीथिंग फ्रॉम दिस रिवॉर्ड पॉइंट्स एज रिवॉर्ड्स पॉइंट ओनली. तो 2-3 चीज़ें अभी इसमें इन्वॉल्व हो गई कि एक रिवॉर्ड पॉइंट का तुम्हारा वॉलेट हो गया, फिर तुम्हारा पेमेंट गेटवे हो गया, फिर एक तुम्हारा ऑर्डर प्रोसेसिंग वाला हो गया. नाउ शॉपिफाई पे तुम देखोगे तो लाइक 3 चीज़ों के तीनों डिफरेंट प्लगइन्स है. हाउ वुड यू मेक श्योर दैट लाइक दीज प्लगइन्स लाइक कम्युनिकेट विथ ईच अदर? एंड फॉर अ ब्रांड लाइक फॉर एग्जाम्पल वाव साइंस, दिस इज लाइक सुपर critical thing. They can't stand you know in the market if they don't have you know these kind of deal structures and the way for consumers to order and so on, which is possible with Dukaan, because we do understand ki like okay, this is how the markets where like the trust is not there between the buyers and sellers, especially when the consumer is buying for the first time. कि lot of times तुम example ले लो कि like your idea is to start a t-shirt brand. You will like choose some funky name and all that, and you started spending money on Facebook ads. But I as a buyer, I'll always think यार ये पता नहीं कौन सा ब्रांड है, तो भले मेरे पास पैसा है लेकिन मैं कैश ऑन डिलीवरी ही करूंगा. समझ लो,
एटलीस्ट फर्स्ट टाइम.
एग्जैक्टली. लाइक लॉट ऑफ टाइम्स तो ये होता है कि लाइक मैंने जो कल ऑर्डर किया था मेरे को आज भूल जाता हूँ मैं, एंड देन बाय दैट टाइम लाइक द ट्रेंड हैज चेंज्ड. तब तक तुम्हारा बैटमैन का टी शर्ट आता है, तब तक आयरन मैन लॉन्च हो चुके होते, एंड देन यू डोंट वांट द बैटमैन टी शर्ट एनीमोर, राइट? सो आई थिंक सॉल्विंग सच critical problems was like super necessary for at least like India kind of markets, and we are already seeing that happening, right? If Wow Science, which was like second biggest customer of Shopify, is moving from Shopify to Dukaan, then that means ki like we have done something. So yeah.
So this is a fantastic example of how software itself has changed over the last 25-30 years, right? I mean 30 years back that attitude of India as an afterthought, right? वैसे भी I mean ये लोग software के लिए पैसे नहीं देते, तो why should I even bother about tweaking my product for this demographic, right? That was a thought, right? But we're at a point right now where companies like yourself, for example, right? You're closer to the ground, you're iterating very closely with your customers, prospects, etc. You've created a market out of thin air, right? Shopify was valued at some 150 billion or 160 billion dollars at the peak, right?
Yes.
Arguably, there should be no other business, right? I mean, they should take over every damn thing.
Absolutely.
But there are businesses there are markets rather that they neglect, which is a huge opportunity for, you know, someone like Dukaan.
See, no, right? I think like Shopify is like super smart, right? You think this way, why would somebody neglect the whole market? Unless he has like something else which he can go after. And he knows very well that India market is not something where I should put my efforts, because ultimately it's all about money. It's all about profits for all the companies, right? If I'm putting like 1 hour of my time to design a logo जहाँ पे मेरे को $40 per hour मिल रहा है, versus I'm putting the same 1 hour to do like some data analytics work for a company which pays me like $2,000, which one I would choose? Second option, right? That thing is like for Shopify, it's a US market. कि same market में I am going to go extremely deeper, not just limited for the e-commerce, but also for the point of sale systems, warehouse automation. वहीं पे आ रहा है उसका already पैसा. उसको इंडिया मार्केट में मतलब वो तब करेगा जब when he will feel कि like now I have reached, you know, a saturation point where nothing can be done for US market, and that is never going to happen because the nature of commerce itself is like evolving. कि कल जाके तुम्हारा पूरा टिकटॉक आ गया पूरा चैनल, 4 साल पहले कुछ था ही नहीं वहाँ पे टिकटॉक का. नाउ यू वांट टू बिल्ड लाइक ऑल द टूल्स एंड रीमार्केटिंग पिक्सेल्स एंड टारगेटिंग एंड लाइक 50 और चीजें, तो वही मार्केट इनफ है ना तुम्हारे लिए टू यू नो कीप बिल्डिंग ऑल द थिंग्स फ्रॉम व्हेन यू हैव ऑलरेडी वैलिडेटेड कि ओके दिस इज द मार्केट वेयर 100 people sign up, 20 people would pay, versus going after a market जहाँ पे 100 people sign up, only 0.5% would pay, and he's paying like 10 times lesser than what previous guy used to pay. So I think they are smart. We are smart again. I think it's just a matter of time. We'll go to the US kind of markets and we'll face the reality. Right. Ki whether it is actually possible to displace Shopify. Like if I would have to, you know, convince somebody ki like why not Shopify and why Dukaan? Right. Like what is the selling point for me? Right. Why would somebody trust just like 2 years or 3 years old company versus somebody who is in the market for like 21 years. Right. So I think that is the ultimate reality or like validation for us going to be.
But I think building in the India market also makes you extremely competitive.
It does. Absolutely. Right? Yes. That is absolutely.
Because you have to build at the lowest cost of resources.
Not
right?
exactly. The cost demanding. Of resources is like not lowest. Like especially like if you consider like tech and engineering bandwidth, you are paying like more than like what a US engineer would charge. Yeah, like what I have personally experienced, one average engineer, he would take like 30 days to complete job of, you know, one smart guy who can do the same thing in like 3 hours. And the whole race is against time. Not about, you know, कि like okay I have spent just 100 रुपये में देखो इतना अच्छा बनाया. नहीं, कोई किसी को नहीं फर्क पड़ता तुमने 100 रुपये में बनाया 1000 रुपये में बनाया. You spend like 5,000 rupees, but you have to make sure कि like whatever you have built is, you know, extremely useful. So I think in terms of the expenses and all that, labor cost and all that, if you are building like really hardcore tech and the product and software company, I don't think that price difference is a USP anymore at all. But if you are, you know, starting a business for India market and here you survived and then you figured out a way to sell the same product to the US market, then sky's the limit. For sure. Even if you sell like replica, it's like nothing is bad about, you know, cloning somebody's business or doing like exactly same. You know, you don't have to invent like all the things again and again, right? Whatever you are writing on the internet, like even if you are posting your LinkedIn status, that same information has been posted by like 10,000 people. Like, because I personally have seen like a lot of times like people would comment कि हाँ ये तो ये फालतू कंपनी है, इन लोग को तो कुछ आता नहीं, इन लोगों ने तो क्लोन किया. भाई जब 1 मिनट में 20 मिलियन रिक्वेस्ट तुम्हें हैंडल करने की आती है ना, तब तुम्हें पता चलती है.
Execution is a whole other ball game, right? I mean we've said this on the podcast earlier that, you know, Flipkart is not India's Amazon. Right? Ola is not India's Uber.
Absolutely.
Right? These guys had to pioneer innovation for the Indian market.
Absolutely.
And had to execute hard, right? I mean, it's a hard market.
See, this is if you know that what it takes to build businesses,
exactly,
you know that this is going to be your words.
Right.
But if you are just a keyboard warrior who is sitting on the room who is not getting Tinder matches, you will be like, hey, isko to kuch aata nahi, ye to copy kar raha hai, bhai tu kar le.
Yeah, and funny thing is, I remember 2009 when the Flipkart funding happened with Axel, right? उसके बाद तो I mean इतने सारे e-commerce shops आ गए.
Exactly.
Right? And these were sizable guys, right?
Correct.
I mean, some of them we don't even remember now. How many of them remember Jabong or Shop Clues? And I mean,
They
like a lot of
consolidated
people
poor market.
came
Yeah.
up, right?
Yeah,
I mean, and
yeah.
a lot of people went.
Correct. Absolutely.
So the mortality was like absolutely high.
Yeah.
बट नेट आपको लगता है कि इंडिया मार्केट में सॉफ्टवेयर के लिए धंधा है या नहीं
है यार? तुम क्लेवर टैप जैसी कंपनीज देखो, फॉर एग्जांपल, लाइक लास्ट आई हर्ड द रेवेन्यू वाज लाइक
अराउंड $100
million.
Yeah.
एंड मेजॉरिटी ऑफ द रेवेन्यू कम्स फ्रॉम इंडिया.
Yeah.
तो फिर वो बात पूरा अलग है कि इंडिया मार्केट पे नहीं करता. भाई तेरे को बनाना नहीं आता. सिंपल सी बात है.
कोर नीड सॉल्व करना है ना.
देखो, प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व कर दिया तो पैसा देंगे लोग, अनलेस देयर आर अल्टरनेटिव्स हु आर लाइक 10 times cheaper than you, क्योंकि दिस इज अ प्राइस सेंसिटिव मार्केट, दैट इज फॉर श्योर. बी इट योर टी शर्ट, बी इट योर अंडरवियर और बी इट योर सॉफ्टवेयर, इट्स गोइंग टू बी द सेम फॉर ऑल द कैटेगरीज. द ओनली क्वेश्चन इज लाइक वेदर इट डज व्हाट इट सेज. दैट्स इट.
People do pay for value here.
They do pay for value.
Right? I mean, just look at weddings, man. I mean, it's my favorite example to give, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
and here again, we have this thing that, tier 2, tier 3, I mean, it will not be that much. Arey, have you seen some weddings in these places? I mean, it's insane.
It's insane, yeah.
They spend money.
And see, like one of the thing that people don't consider when they make a statement is like Indians don't pay. Indians don't pay because they are smart to figure out there are free solutions.
Correct,
to
yeah.
get the same thing done.
Yeah.
It's not कि like देने की औकात नहीं इन लोग की. देने की औकात है भाई, तू कर तो ले मेरा काम. अगर कोई तो फ्री में कर रहा है तो मैं तेरे को क्यों दूंगा? It's as that simple.
Right.
So I think it's the same for software as well.
And also any work that can be done by hiring another Chotu or a Ramu Kaka.
वो वही करेगा. हाँ, मतलब
you will not pay for that, basically.
That again depends कि like what you personally which direction which you see कि like whether it is going to be like completely offline या फिर online कि okay मेरे को सब कुछ systematic रखना है, मेरे को भरोसा नहीं उस employee के ऊपर तो मैं कैमरा लगा दूंगा. Like that's forget about software ना. Why that camera came there? Because you are not trusting your employee कि ये गले से पैसा चुरा रहा होगा करके. तो you adopted to tech ना.
Right.
Software is exactly same. The moment you start doubting on someone or the moment you want to get digitize yourself because you realize कि like okay this is how the world is going to be, then you will do that thing. Like my dad is using WhatsApp. Why they're not writing postcards anymore? Because they have seen the value, they have experienced it firsthand. Now is the time when they have become like serious about okay यार tech नाम की कोई तो चीज़ है करके. Like I literally have seen like my uncle जो मतलब मोबाइल से ऐसे हेट, मतलब मेरे बचपन में मेरे को मोबाइल नहीं देते थे. अभी साला व्हाट्सएप से बाहर ही नहीं निकल रहे, मैं बैठा हुआ आगे भाई लगे फोन में. That has changed.
Yeah. So net, what is your India strategy then?
India story is just starting. There will be like crazy growth for tech companies and any kind of companies who is trying to like solve the problem. But if your ambitions are to I want to build a $10 billion company in like 5 years, then you have to look outside India market as well. Exactly like what we are doing at Dukaan. कि like ठीक है, enough market है, grow भी कर रहा है, but it's not big enough to achieve the ambitions that I have. That's the reason like why we are competing with Shopify in like even like US markets. We'll about to start.
Right.
We haven't started yet.
Right.
Still like preparing for the war.
So since the last time we spoke, right? I mean, there are two things I think that has kind of changed many things have changed, but two major things. One is the outside India thrust, right? The thrust on internationalization. And the second thing is the fact that you've started to, build for enterprises, right? Initially, I think the story was heavily SMB, but now you're starting to see large enterprises also see that, see value in Dukaan, right? Can you talk a little bit about both of these? How did this happen?
See, like ultimately, Dukaan is a platform, right? My job is not limited or like restricted to solve a problem for a particular category. And day by day, as you keep getting like more smarter and understand the world more better, you will change your decisions. For example, 3 years back, I used to feel कि like यार बहुत सारे 60 million SMBs है, बहुत सारा पैसा बनेगा, सब लोग मेरा सॉफ्टवेयर यूज़ करेंगे. Then you get a reality check कि इसमें से यार इतने लोग तो पे नहीं किए, जितने लोगों ने पे किया है उसमें से बहुत सारे लोगों को धंधा आ नहीं रहा. So there is no way that I can make a $10 million company staying in India. So what do I do? Then you realize like, okay, there is one more segment in India, which is, you know, all the companies which are like fairly established, who are doing like close to like 50 crore के ऊपर का GMV and all that. Where are they hosting their e-commerce platform? Then you realize like, okay, it's a Shopify plus, it's their enterprise solution. Then you think about, you know, okay, should I launch like Dukaan Enterprise? But wait, I don't know like what all requirements are going to be there when it comes to, you know, enterprise and so on. Then you know, go talk to like couple of brands. Then they will tell you कि यार COD का बहुत ज़्यादा पेन है, ये ऐसा मैन्युअली करना पड़ता है. देख मैंने 25 लोगों का टीम बिठाया है जिसका काम बस ये करना है. We can do the same thing within Dukaan because the underlying whole infrastructure remains the same, right? Like the way you add products, the way you process the orders, the way, you know, online payment works and all that. Only thing that gets changed is like business specific logic. जो तुम्हारी चीज़ें होती है ना कि इस particular पिन कोड से ऑर्डर आया तो तू इस डिलीवरी कंपनी को शिप कर दे. Because I am working at scale and if I optimize for even like 20% of my orders, that adds like say 5% of the GMV to my orders. Or maybe, you know, launching these bundles where the coupon code should be by default applied. That also, you know, makes a huge difference on your conversions and so on. So then you realize कि like, okay, there is a category who is ready to pay, who has a burning problem. All that they want is just like ये चार जो basic features है Shopify पे नहीं build हो सकते वो तुम build करके दे दो, मैं कहीं पे भी हो जाऊँगा. क्योंकि like see, ultimately for any kind of businesses, it's all about money. If you are building like a company for profits and so on, so they don't really care कि like वो Shopify है या दुकान है. किसी को नहीं पड़ी कि लाइक वो कैनेडियन कंपनी है $5 billion. हम है ना, हमको दिया ना लाइक मनीष द फाउंडर ऑफ वाओ साइंस, रियली ग्रेट गाय, एंड करण हिज को फाउंडर, दे टुक अ बेट ऑन अस कि लाइक ठीक है क्या फ़र्क पड़ता है, 2 साल पुराना कंपनी है तो हम लोग का प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व कर रहे हैं तो ठीक है करने दो ना फिर तो. देन दे एक्चुअली सॉ कि लाइक ओके देयर इज अ क्रेजी स्टेप जंप इन कन्वर्जन रेट्स. दे मूव्ड वर्सेस रेस्ट ऑफ द पीपल. नहीं यार ये तो बच्चे तो फाउंडर पता नहीं कुछ भी करता रहता है, ट्वीट नहीं जाते अपने इसके ऊपर. ठीक है भाई तू आएगा वापस आएगा बिकॉज यू डोंट हैव अ चॉइस. एंड 2 साल पहले तो फिर भी देयर वाज अ नॉइज लाइक दे वर लाइक बिकाई एंड 50 और अब तो देयर इज जीरो कंपटीशन. Even now, like if you go on Twitter and just search for like Shopify Dukaan, this particular keyword, you will see कि like right from a podcaster, पुणे का एक बंदा, I think like what's his name, हर्ष पंजाबी, he's this gadgets and all that review वगैरह करता है. He posted a tweet one day कि like I want to launch a e-commerce store. I was thinking between like Dukaan and Shopify, something like that. So there you are seeing कि like you are the only comparison or the suggestion somebody ask कि Shopify और दुकान में से कौन सा चूज करो. They never ask कि like यार बिकाई भी है, इंस्टामो जो भी है और भी 50 लोग हैं, कोई गए ज़माने की गुजरी चीज़ है, आ रहे तो बंद हो गए उसमें से ऑलरेडी. And the same thing has happened even in Indonesia market, right? So there was a startup called Lumo Shop or something. I think they have raised like close to 150 million or maybe like more than that. They have shut down. Like crazy. At least that's what I've read in news. I hope like news are correct.
So I have a question on competition, but before that, right? I mean, so you would recommend building for enterprise? I mean, like
no, everything starts from small. Correct. कि पहले छोटे आदमी का प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व कर दो, फिर देखो उसका नेक्स्ट मिड लेवल का कौन है, फिर तुम यू डोंट डायरेक्टली लाइक इवन इफ यू नो फ्रॉम डे वन कि पैसा एंटरप्राइजेस से ही बनने वाला है, but you can't go to enterprise.
You're not ready yet.
Of course, yes, exactly. Yeah. So I had to keep selling to all this SMB and छोटा category because I didn't have like lot of features which enterprises would 100% will ask for. क्योंकि मेरे केस में मैं नया कुछ कर नहीं रहा. It's not a business where like I have like some crazy idea and like I'm going to change the way the commerce is going to happen. I don't want to do anything at all. मैं बोल रहा हूँ वहाँ पे वो 5 बिलियन कर रहे हैं, मेरे को यहाँ पे 5 मिलियन भी होगा मेरा इंडिया में, मैं खुश हूँ यहाँ पे.
So start small, make your mistakes,
yes.
prove and validate your use case.
Absolutely.
And then prep for scale and complexity of the enterprise.
Absolutely. So you should just have like conviction in like something कि finally मेरे को ये achieve करना है for these big kind of enterprises, but there is a path you have to follow to reach to that goal, be it in terms of building the features to building a sales team. क्योंकि the approach that you take for selling to SMB categories like completely weird or like different as compared to how you are going to sell to the enterprises.
Yeah, I mean, I have a little bit of experience selling to enterprises and I can say that everything is different, right?
Yep,
Whether
absolutely.
it's the product side
Exactly.
or the sales and marketing side. Sometimes when you're building for the enterprise, you feel like you're building for one versus you're building for N, like in the case of SMB, right? And when you're selling as well, right, you have to be highly ABM sort of a ABM ABS account-based marketing, account-based selling approach, right? You can't just
Crazy.
go with a one-size-fits-all. Because enterprise के पास पैसे है
and time भी इतना लगता है ना, right? Like
exactly.
When I had like the whole product, I was like चलो भाई सब ready है मेरे पास, जा रहा हूँ कॉल पे, ऐसे close करता हूँ. Then I got a reality check, like साला 2 महीने तक reply नहीं कर रहा मेरे को. Then there is a onboarding process, जाके तुम्हारे सारे tax statements वगैरह. And I think that's how it works. But see, we are like product and tech people. We like neither I do understand about enterprises nor my co-founder who is a tech magician, Subhash. तो हाँ सीख रहे हैं मतलब like lot of things like even I don't know, right? And I don't know like who knows this thing. Okay, like there could be like people who are in like enterprise SaaS. Should I hire somebody from like CleverTap? Maybe. Should I hire somebody from Razor Pay? अब अच्छा नहीं समझ में नहीं आ रहा यार क्या करूँ यार स्विगी वाला लेके आओ. So there is like lot of times you will fuck up, you will understand now you have to you don't have to like do the same mistake, and that's how like, and there is no like strict or like or proven formula.
Right.
Everything has a context.
So you spoke about competition, right? And any market that is viable enough in SaaS gets commoditized, right? 50 लोग आ जाते हैं, I mean, cheaper, faster, better करके, I mean, how do you deal with that? यार, I mean, कुछ लोग तो, I mean, चले गए, like you mentioned a few of those folks as well, right? I mean, building a sustainable business is hard. Even with the money, I mean, the mortality is pretty high, right? But how do you keep staying ahead? How do you stay ahead of someone else who's building a mobile shop which has all of the stuff that Dukaan is doing and so on?
Yeah, I think I don't know like how to answer this question, but speaking of competition तो पानी पूरी वाले को भी है, वो भी सेम पानी पूरी बेच रहा है, दूसरा भी सेम बेच रहा है, दोनों का भी दुकान चल रहा है अभी. So I don't think like suddenly if somebody comes up with like exact same features, then your customers are going to move just like that, unless they see a explicitly कि like बहुत ज़्यादा value add हो रहा है नए solution से. Either like it is super cheap कि 100 rupees का चीज़ you are getting at like 1 rupees, or whatever revenue that you used to make using that product, now your revenue has doubled or tripled. Until then you won't take a decision. Or maybe like when you have like terrible experience कि like तुम्हारा site दिवाली के दिन पे 4 घंटे के लिए down है, till then you won't take a decisions to switch to the new service, right? If you are speaking about or limiting building for the enterprises, then you don't have to be scared about competition at all. When you are sure कि like you are closely connected with your customers, you do understand the industry well, you do understand like how it is evolving, and you have the support to the changes which are happening. And I think like any business build करने का same ही formula है, right? कि what is changing in the world, what is the pain this new change has causing to the world, who is solving for that pain, can you solve it like better than that, and would people pay for that? If you put any idea in this structure, if the answer is yes, you can solve pain like better than somebody else and people would pay you, go and like test it.
Yeah. I think my personal opinion is that people spend way too much time thinking about competition when they don't have to, right? A happy customer doesn't change.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, they don't switch.
Absolutely.
Right? Yes. You can tempt them, you can have, whatever it is, right? A happy customer doesn't change because there are switching costs. Right, and I think purchasing itself is a bit of an emotional, psychological decision. It's not a very rational, like left-hand side, right-hand side kind of a decision, right? So happy customers don't change.
Yeah, let's take example of Dukaan. I don't think like switching costs are like too much for any kind of software these days. Be it I have to migrate the whole CRM from one CRM to another, or be it migrating the whole e-commerce site which has like 30 million orders. 40 million different sessions का data, इतना analytics, everything can be migrated from here to here just like that. तो switching cost में तो इतना कुछ I don't think there is a.
No, but I'll have to also train my staff. I'll have to adjust my processes. I'll have to.
You will take all those decisions, or you will also force your team to switch from like Shopify to Dukaan, or like from A interface to B interface. Only when you are 99% sure कि इससे मेरा धंधा बढ़ने वाला है या फिर इससे मेरा बहुत पैसा बचेगा.
Right.
Because ultimately, all the companies are all about making profits.
Bottom line.
The moment I see मेरा कुछ तो वहाँ पे मतलब profit होने वाला है, so I won't care about anything at all. This is exactly how it works for like any companies. कि if they see कि like okay there is a like true value in this product, it's saving me say $5 million a month, and I can force my team to start using the new product. So those decisions has to be taken from the top management already.
Yeah, it has to be an order of magnitude better than whatever they're
using
at this point of time, right?
Yeah, correct.
So one thing that stands out very, very clearly from you and Dukaan, right, is this culture of speed.
Yeah.
Everything has to be fast.
Yeah.
Everything has to be like now, quick,
Yeah.
right? Whether it is your sense of, hey, you know what, we need the team to work from the office, work closely together because we need to take decisions on a daily basis and
Yes.
people should be informed.
Yeah.
Or even some of the other things, right? Like making Dukaan tech itself like faster every update, right? So, how do you drive that culture? How do you drive that culture across the team? And what are the things that you're trying to make faster right now?
I think like that comes from again like the management, right? Like when me and Subhash sit among themselves, like the whole team and all that, they feel like different kind of energy. कि यार जब तक ये लाइव नहीं हो रहा ना तब तक मैं जा नहीं रहा ऑफिस से, भले मेरे को नहीं आता होगा करने के लिए. एंड देन देयर इज अ कोलैबोरेटिव कल्चर कि भाई ये फट रहा है बता मैं क्या करूँ. देन द नेक्स्ट गाय हेल्प्स यू. देन यू सी कि यार ओके सो थिंक दिस वे कि लाइक 8 इंजीनियर्स बैठे एक जगह पे एंड यू आर अ न्यू एम्प्लॉय हु जॉइन्स द कंपनी. देन यू सी कि यार 6 बजे बोला था ऑफिस से जाना है करके ये लोग तो 9 बज के अभी हिल ही नहीं रहे करके सब लोग काम कर रहे हैं. सो यू विल सिट टिल लाइक 12-1. बिकॉज आई रिमेंबर माई टाइनी ओल्ड डेज 4 बजे 5 बजे तक हम लोग जग के मार्केटिंग के कैंपेन्स बना रहे हैं, 50 चीज़ें कर रहे करके. सो दैट इज़ द काइंड ऑफ कल्चर दैट वी हैव where everybody has full authority of doing like certain things. Everybody has access to somebody who is more knowledgeable than them, and it's a concentrated teams across like multiple types of like knowledge, be it a front end, back end, iOS हो गया तुम्हारा, Android हो गया, सब कुछ कर लेंगे. And if you spend like enough time and if you have that thing ना कि like जब तक ये नहीं करूँगा मैं जाऊँगा नहीं करके, you automatically start doing all the things.
But how do you scale that? I can understand like the first 5 or 10 people being that way, the first 25 people being that way, but अभी तो 60 लोग होंगे ना.
तो आपने जो कोर टीम को सिखाया है ना, वो कोर टीम वाले का सेम काम है कि लाइक आगे वाले को सेम सिखाए. You can't keep training like 60 out of 60. And I think that's the thing that we have done beautifully well कि like तुम्हारा जो close enough team है, that will do the same with their immediate जो भी काम कर रहे हैं उसके साथ.
Yeah, I think culture is spreads through a process of osmosis, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like who do you sit with, who do you have lunch with, who do you report to, etc.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
you tend to emulate these behaviors of those people, right?
Absolutely, yes, true.
Yeah. So what are you trying to make faster right now?
So far, we haven't been monetizing the cash on delivery orders at all. So I have seen कि like there are about 8,000 plus sellers who get like more than 200 orders per week or something who are not paying us even a single rupee. तो आज एकदम बहुत मेजर चेंज जाने वाला है दुकान के ऊपर, विच आई थिंक कुड बैकफायर एज वेल, बट दैट इज ओके. इफ आई एम एडिंग वैल्यू आई वांट मनी आउट ऑफ दैट, इवन बी इट लाइक 2% or like 3% of the transaction. So that whole update will go, which can triple or like make my revenue like 5 times from here within overnight. Hoping that update should go like as expected. Of course like lot of people would be unhappy कि like आज तक चार्ज नहीं कर रहा था, आज अचानक से कैसे चार्ज करने लग गए. ठीक है यार, मतलब थोड़ा पैसे जैसे बाकी VC फंडेड कंपनीज बांटते थे, मैंने भी बांट लिया, अब नहीं बांटना.
Famously you don't have product managers, right?
Zero.
I mean,
there is no function is called product manager. In fact, like okay, I'll show you a live message from today's Slack. So see, that's a message to general group में. So this is one of the customer who replied this. ठीक है. Now this is my engineering head.
Great, thanks for letting me know. Really impressed with how you guys are building stuff. Shopify would never give me such a quick solution. I have already told 2 of my friends to open up their store on Dukaan. You guys are going to play the same role in democratizing e-com in India as to what Jio did for internet penetration.
Right. Now the message that I have written, ki a reminder to all, each one of us is a customer support agent, including myself, before your primary job function, and keep it that way. Exactly same thing is there for product manager as well. कि जहाँ से requirement आया है, do you think like this makes sense? We should build this because our goal is right now, whatever you are going to build, just ask yourself whether this feature will increase his orders or no. If the answer is yes, then okay, go to the next guy, explain him कि how exactly this whole thing is going to work. फिर उसको पता है कि लाइक डिज़ाइन वाले को पकड़ना है, ऑलरेडी तुम्हारा डिज़ाइन सिस्टम पूरा बना है, सामने बैठ के तुम्हारा इंटर्न भी डिज़ाइन कर लेगा. सेम आगे फ्रंट एंड वाले के पास चला गया, बैक एंड रेडी है इधर से. तो एवरीबडी इज प्रोडक्ट मैनेजर. एंड पहला तुम्हारा जब ज्वाइन करते हो सबसे पहला असाइनमेंट ही वही कि लाइक यू स्पेंड 7 days एंड वट एवर प्रोडक्ट क्वेश्चन दैट आई एम गोइंग टू आस्क यू, यू शुड बी एबल टू आंसर द क्वेश्चन. कि how the whole Dukaan platform works and how to do particular thing. Like how do I add attributes to my products, or like how do I add sizes and colors and all that. If you don't understand, like what you are building, then you are not qualified to work in Dukaan. I think Dukaan is such an idea where everybody relates themselves with कि मेरे को भी ये प्लेटफॉर्म बनाना था कि लाइक कोई तो ऑनलाइन जाए उसका सामान बेचे. इनफैक्ट एक मैनेजर ही नहीं चाहिए होता किसी चीज़ के लिए. मैनेजर इज व्हाट कि लाइक तुम्हारे पीछे कोई तो लग के डंडा कर रहा है. क्यों करना है? अगर पूरा कंप्लीट फ्रीडम दिया है, इफ यू ट्रस्ट द गाय, इफ यू ट्रस्ट हिज एबिलिटीज, then what's the point of putting like 3 guys behind him who is going to justify the value. And problem ये होता है managers के साथ. I'll tell you, this is a real like experience and real example कि तुम्हारे सीनियर को नहीं चाहिए कि you come up with a great idea who is going to add like lot of money and everything to the company, because then CEO will get to know कि यार ये बच्चे का आइडिया था लेकिन ये मैनेजर ने दबा दिया उसको नीचे. तो एक तो तुम्हारे कोई अच्छे आइडियाज ऊपर तक एग्जीक्यूशन लेवल तक कभी नहीं पहुंचते. एंड देन व्हेन यू अप, देन सारा ब्लेम तुम पे आता है कि यार देखो इसी का आइडिया था, मैं बोल ही रहा था पहले कि नहीं करना चाहिए. बट ये रोशन है ना कि देखो लेस के दूसरा फ्लेवर लॉन्च करवा दिया, कोई चिली मार्केट में चला ही नहीं, फालतू का प्रोडक्शन का कॉस्ट मेरा चला गया. See, that's the thing. Like managers will always take a credit for all the things which goes right, versus you are the one who is going to take all the credits which or all the blame for the things that go wrong. So I don't have a manager culture. मैं खुद बैठता हूँ सब लोग के साथ. सुभाष.
No, I mean, it's a moment of introspection for all managers, including me. Nearly 7-8 years back, I said that there's an inflation of managers, right, in startups, because in the early days, I'm talking about 2008, 2009, the early product days in India, right? I mean, typically the product managers would be like a senior engineering guy, right? Who has to translate requirements to the rest of the team, basically. चलो 2 साल का MBA कर दिया, and then he came and he started giving ज्ञान कि ये this is the BRD and
होता है, ये होता है,
all of that stuff.
हमारे तो एक भी PRD भी नहीं लिखते हम लोग, literally. Right?
So, but that culture started changing, and I feel that ठीक है, I mean there is some value in in good product managers, but I definitely think there's an overinflation. I mean, you don't need a product manager to manage your payment experience, for example, right? Or your Paytm experience for it. I mean, it's like, come on, it's like it's getting narrower and narrower.
Managers के बारे में philosophy मेरा ये है कि if there are like 5 different teams involved to get like a particular thing done, so you don't add like between वाले layers. Even if you disappoint like one particular team ना, your whole experience goes for toss. क्या इधर वो फीचर डिले हो जाएगा just because वो मैनेजर का तुम्हारे फ्रंट एंड वाले के साथ झगड़ा है. And you can't keep everybody happy. It happens like within the team as well, right? Like there is like lot of politics and all that. It happens, like nobody can control. And ultimately तुम ये देखोगे कि like हर एक कंपनी में तुम्हारा टॉप 20, 30, 40% लोग होते हैं. 40 भी लोग बहुत ज़्यादा नंबर बोल दिया, जो पूरा एक्चुअल में कंपनी ड्राइव कर रहा है.
Correct.
बाकी सब कुछ यार जस्ट देयर कि like हाँ भाई कुछ तो चल रहा है, सैलरी आ रहा है 1 तारीख को, वो फिर नहीं चल रहा फिर.
Yeah. आपने आपका सर्विस और सपोर्ट टीम को पूरा फायर कर दिया, राइट? एंड यू टोल्ड मी दैट यू डोंट हैव योर सेल्स टीम आल्सो, एंड योर सपोर्ट का जो थ्रेड था ट्विटर पे, आई मीन दैट वेंट वायरल एंड पूरा धमाल हो गया. तो वो थोड़ा एक्सप्लेन करो.
देखो यार, यहाँ पे एक तो जिस वे में पोर्ट्रे किया ना पूरा मीडिया ने, अगेन like how the media works, right? It's a clickbait कि like okay, top 10 reasons to do this 10th will surprise you. I'm a marketer first. First of all, there was no such heartless move कि like okay आज से तुम जॉब पे आना बंद कर दो. नहीं, सब लोग को 3 महीने का टाइम दिया था. Everybody got paid, everybody got job. कि okay, this was the reason why I told these people to move, because it was not efficient for me. Although it's a hard decision for me to let go like all these 30 people, as a company, as a CEO, I'll be judged upon the fact whether I am able to grow the company and keep it active for like long period of time or no. So even if like lot of magazines and all the people will call me like heartless and all that, I don't care. It's okay. If if the problem that I solved with AI is actually bringing the efficiency, if the responses are getting like instant, why wouldn't you do that? कि जब ये पूरा कांड हो गया है ट्विटर का, at least like 100 magazines, right from BBC, New York Times, Washington Post, even Supercar Blondie. I don't know like how the she is related with like AI and all that, but she posted. Then some of like 2-3 Hollywood actors posted my story on Instagram. Ki like okay, this is the guy who has fired the team. these people are like happy with me, they are not senti with me. तुम अलग से, तुम तो जानते भी नहीं मेरे को. But it's okay, part of life. What people still don't see, or like what happened on the other side, lot of employees they have sent me their internal Slack के screenshots कि यार हमारा CEO बोले कि यार हमें भी बनाना चाहिए same चीज़ करके. So although there were like lot of people who were abusing me, who were calling me heartless and like lot of negative things, I know there are like equal amount of people who wants to do exact same thing. The outcome of that whole Twitter was like the product that I launched, a bot 9, it got over like 10 to 20,000 bots, 20,000 bots created within like 3 to 4 days. With a backlink from all the international magazines, which you can't acquire even if you are ready to pay for that, right? So you don't realize ki like what that a single tweet, which was like genuine. The whole intent of mine was just to inspire more people to build the companies overnight, because we actually built like the Subhash and the team built within like couple of hours. तो ये पता ना था कि यार कितना इजी होता है मतलब बिजनेस बनाना. वो तो अलग डायरेक्शन में चला गया. मतलब ठीक है चलो, अगर आ रहा है रीच तो आ रहा है, ठीक है. दिस इज व्हाट ग्रोथ हैकिंग मींस.
Ultimately you can't take the SEO guy out of the SEO
I can't.
guy, right?
You can't. Of course, that's the reason why I told you. Like I'm the marketer first.
Yeah. You built a Dukaan AI assistant, right? That
Correct.
automated all of the support queries.
Absolutely.
And the resolution dropped from, some few hours to instant.
The
almost.
response time right now you can also check. Just
Right.
go on dukaanhelp.com. You ask any question about Dukaan.
Right.
It will tell you instantly कि like ये चीज़ ऐसी करनी है, ये चीज़ ऐसी करनी है. अब कस्टमर सपोर्ट वाले को नहीं आएगा ना वो चीज़. So think this way, like what is the ideal profile of somebody who is working at customer support team of Dukaan? कि the guy should know
Everything about
e-commerce.
Dukaan.
The guy should understand tech, कि क्यों फटा है उसका, कि 404 पे जा रहा है.
It's impossible.
उसको नहीं पता भाई कैसे क्या, एंड ही कांट डीबग. मेरे को टेक वाले 2 लोगों को फिर कॉल पे भेजना पड़ेगा कि लाइक जाके डीबग कर ले कि लाइक वो एंड्रॉइड के इस वर्जन पे क्यों फट रहा है करके. थर्ड थिंग इज कि लाइक ही वुड नेवर डिफरेंशिएट कि ओके दिस इज द फीचर सजेशन व्हिच आई शुड पास इट टू सुमित. उसको पता ही नहीं कि लाइक ये फीचर है. कोई तो आगे पूछता है यार फेसबुक रीमार्केटिंग पिक्सल मेरा चल नहीं रहा. Now for that you have to have the knowledge of digital marketing as well. अब तुम्हें अगर डिजिटल मार्केटिंग, टेक, प्रोडक्ट सब कुछ आता है तो तुम कस्टमर सपोर्ट में काम करोगे क्या? तो सिंपल है कि लाइक मेरे लिए नहीं सेंस बना था. जब तक बना था दिया सैलरी ना, और 3 महीने का और भी दिया ना एक्स्ट्रा. हाउ आई एम हार्टलेस? इट्स ओके, आई एम हार्टलेस, यू आर स्टूपिड.
But if you look at it, right, I mean, from a customer's perspective, that was hugely valuable.
Of course, like you are living in a world where people are expecting groceries to get delivered within 15 minutes.
Exactly.
And what you are expecting कि like दुकान में एक रिक्वेस्ट डाला है, दूसरे दिन रिस्पॉन्स आता है ओके विल गेट बैक टू इन लाइक 24 आवर्स. तीसरे दिन बोलता है मेरा प्रोडक्ट मैनेजर छुट्टी पे है. चौथे दिन तक साला मेरे को पता ही नहीं बैनर कैसे अपलोड करूँ. व्हेन यू आर यूजिंग अ टेक प्रोडक्ट, व्हाट अ आयरनी. जैसे वो जर्नलिस्ट इतने रीच आउट किए, everybody wanted my interview right now. मैं बोला क्यों, अभी क्यों चाहिए? तो बोलती no, this is the hot news that a CEO has replaced 90% of his team. मैं बोला no, you wait no for 3 days. तो बोलती no, I can't wait, somebody else will cover. मैं बोला exactly that's what I'm trying to do. I'm giving somebody what he wants right now, and that is possible only with AI because it has the whole knowledge in the world. It can connect like 3 different things from like 100 different places. I'll give you example. ठीक है? I wanted to do something with Dukaan, and I myself, although I built and designed this product with my own hands, I didn't know like how to do this particular thing. And I thought like it's not possible with Dukaan. I asked the same question to GPT. It told me कि like you go on Zapier, install Dukaan का webhooks का plugin, and you install this particular plugin on Zapier, and you can get it done. I said, fuck. Even I am not smart as like the AI, which is the reality. You will see like, okay, just to give you the idea of bot9's scale and all that. A lot of listed companies have started using bot9, and these are not India wale listed, it's US listed companies. So you can imagine ki like
Bot9
it's going to be a reality.
Bot9 was a hackathon.
It's a hackathon,
product, right?
but now I'll treat it as a like full-time business.
What does it do? I mean, just for
so just
people
put
who don't
down
have
your
the context.
website ka URL, and it will instantly create a personal assistant for your particular product, and you can train it. For example, if you go on Dukaan Help and if you ask, say like, hey, I want to have this feature, is it possible? It will say like, okay, you email to sumit@mydukaan.io. He will handle all your feature requests and all that. If you say like invest in your company, it will say okay, like Sumit handles all the investment related queries and all that. So you can train the bot to address specific types of questions, and it will never fuck up. That's exactly what you do when you are hiring a new employee. But problem employee के केस में ये है कि उसका बीवी के साथ झगड़ा हो गया तो वो नेक्स्ट कस्टमर क्वेरीज अच्छे से नहीं सॉल्व करेगा. AI को इमोशंस नहीं है, AI स्मार्ट है. It is costing me 100, not even like 1/10. I used to spend like more than 50 lakh rupees a month just on the support. क्यों स्पेंड करूँ भाई? अगर 20,000 रुपये मेरा काम हो रहा है तो 50 लाख और 20 लाख. again, people would lose their integrity if there is a huge monies to be saved. Exactly same way, people can switch the products if they are seeing like huge revenue to be like being made or maybe like to be saved from my existing expenses. That's a basic fundamental.
Right. What about sales? I mean,
It will start doing the sales. It will start doing the sales. The bot.
Right.
It basically will integrate with like say Razorpay. It will generate the link. It can negotiate on your behalf. Yeah.
Wow.
You will see. I'll show you in action. Like right when I leave from here, I'll send you the bot for say buying the a coffee brand that we talked about.
Right.
It will convince you like why you should buy from them. I'll give you the working demo of that.
Awesome. Well, that's a lot to take in. So AI and automation is coming for you, right? You have
see, you have seen the history, right? Like the governments are being changed just because,
Right.
like, if you believe that okay, Cambridge Analytica, where did you hear this word from? What it relates or like
Facebook.
तो यार पूरा सरकार चेंज हो रही है एआई और डेटा के थ्रू, ठीक है?
हाँ.
तो तुम भी देखोगे वो रियलिटी होने वाला है कि कस्टमर सपोर्ट इज अ फंक्शन विच विल बी हैंडल्ड बाय एआई. ऑल्दो लॉट ऑफ टाइम पीपल से कि लाइक एआई को पता नहीं कैसे डिसीजन लेना है, कि रिफंड प्रोसेस करना है. नहीं, तुम्हें अभी तक नहीं पता है एआई का. सब करेगा वो, उसको पता है कि लाइक कैसे. एंड रिफंड लाइक फॉर इंस्टेंस लाइक टेक एन एग्जांपल ऑफ रिफंड्स कि ओके एआई डजंट नो हाउ टू वैलिडेट योर लाइक रिफंड केस. अगर रैंडम लोगों को रिफंड दे दिया तो फिर तो कंपनी बंद हो जाएगा. नो, यू डिफाइन हिम कि लाइक ओके लाइक दीज आर द 3 डिफरेंट यूज केसेस कि ये 3 क्राइटेरियाज अगर है मार्क तो उसको रिफंड दे दो या फिर नहीं दे दो. फॉर एग्जाम्पल नाउ हाउ वुड यू आइडेंटिफाई कि लाइक अ गाय इज नॉट सम टिकटॉक इन्फ्लुएंसर जो हर रोज एक कपड़ा मंगाता है, 1 महीने के अंदर रिटर्न करता है फोटो खींच के. यू आर आस्किंग हिम कि लाइक ओके हु यू आर गोइंग टू बाय दिस टी शर्ट फॉर. अच्छा, फॉर योर सेल्फ. अच्छा, मेरे को तो तेरा साइज पता है क्योंकि लास्ट टाइम तो तेरा ऑर्डर डिलीवर्ड था. नाउ नेक्स्ट टाइम इफ यू ट्राई टू रिटर्न द प्रोडक्ट सेइंग कि लाइक ओके साइज नहीं आ रहा, देन इट डजंट प्रोसेस योर रिफंड. नाउ दिस इज अ बेसिक रूल दैट यू हैव टू सेट. एआई विल अंडरस्टैंड. So anything is possible with AI, I think. And this is just the beginning.
Yeah, and the exceptions will keep getting smaller and smaller and smaller, right? I mean, I heard this amazing story of Sachin Bansal. I think he, Flipkart was one of those first few folks who launched this no questions asked return, right? And,
there were questions, but those were like embedded in the product itself.
So someone asked, what will happen, if people take advantage of this, that, whatever. He said, I mean, if I bother about the exceptions, I'll not be able to build the
absolutely
business
true,
itself,
absolutely
right?
true.
And that, having the conviction, having the balls to sort of do that, right, change the entire e-commerce game for India, right?
True.
Yeah.
That's how it should be, right? Like even if you go to Marriott के टीम को पूछोगे तो वो भी बोलता है कि मेरे सीनियर का ब्रीफ मेरे को ये कि यू शुड कीप 95% कस्टमर्स हैप्पी. Which means even Marriott knows कि 5% वो रैंडम क्राउड आने वाला है ही, which you can't keep happy even if it is a Marriott.
ये सब के वजह से I mean your investors must be thrilled, right? I mean because what they kind of advocate that take care of your bottom line, increase your profitability, right? Don't spend money recklessly. True. All of that stuff. I mean, you are sort of proactively doing all of that.
That is good for me, right? Like I'm not building company for investors. Right. They are just like a part of it.
Right. What do you make of this whole market correction that's happened? I mean, we spoke in 2021 and at that time it felt like, what is happening, right? I mean, Byju's was acquiring one company every month, I think, right? Significant scale at that, right? Growth rounds almost every week, people getting funded 50 million, 60 million, 100 million, etc. 2022-ish, the crash happened, public markets corrected, and then, even private valuations have dropped. True. And, we do a weekend show where we cover some of the fundraise action and so on and so forth. And, we have to pick chun ke, we get like 3 or 4 that we can talk about on a weekly basis right now, right? But I also feel that it's a good thing, right?
It's a good thing, right? You will see only the companies who had a legitimate product and revenue and, those ambitions and all that would survive out of this bad phase. So वो एकदम कचरा तो निकल ही जाता है anyways.
The froth is gone.
And this cycle keeps repeating, right? I have seen the exact same cycle back in like housing and tiny old days.
Yeah. Oh yeah, so you work for housing
exactly.
also,
like
right?
I'm not new, right? Like I've been in this ecosystem for like 12 years. So
and housing raised what, 80-90 million?
I don't even remember. Like 90 million was one single round that was raised from the SoftBank. It was a Series B, I guess.
I mean, I think people have forgotten about housing. I think it was the OG at that time, right?
Yeah, exactly, right? Like people just keep forgetting like the previous OGs, right? Like who keeps like remembering the Devanand? अपने को तो पता ही नहीं होता अगर तुम्हारे डैड ने मेरे डैड ने नहीं पता. But उसके ज़माने में वो था हीरो यार बहुत बड़ा.
Yeah.
तो हीरोज नए आते रहेंगे. इट्स जस्ट मैटर्स के लाइक वेदर you are going to be relevant for the new generation or no. जैसे like whether you are like Bohemian Rhapsody of this era or no.
Classic.
Although like that, of course, but still youth enjoys the song, right? Like when they are drunk,
Right.
of course. So yeah.
So what is the kind of different thinking that you need to be a great founder in this era, right? Because I think a lot of people were not used to building businesses, you know, in the market that we're seeing right now, right? So what are you doing differently, and what would you advise to fellow founders and entrepreneurs?
Two types of founders, right? Like the first one who is about to start something, who is still at the verge कि like करूँ या ना करूँ या job ले लूँ. I think everybody should try at least once whatever the idea, क्योंकि खुद का 20 साल का लाइफ तो पता है ना तुम्हें. लाइक कभी तो कुछ तो थॉट आया होगा कि यू नो ये ऐसा बिजनेस में बना सकता हूँ क्या. मे बी 10 साल पहले वो कुछ अलग था कि लाइक पायलट बन जाऊँ मैं या फिर कुछ तो और दुकान कर दूँ. आज मेरे को लगता है कि मैं ऐप बनाऊँगा तो करके. सो जस्ट लाइक यू कंसिडर 4 years ऑफ योर लाइफ, स्पेशली लाइक इफ यू आर इंजीनियर और लाइक डॉक्टर और यू नो दोज प्रोफेशंस, यू आर ऑलरेडी इन्वेस्टिंग लाइक 4 years ऑफ योर टाइम वेर योर डैड एंड मॉम इज नॉट आस्किंग यू फॉर लाइक even a single rupee. Take 2 more years from them when they are not going to ask you for a single rupee at all. But you give it a try कि like जो आइडिया तुम्हारा था वो तुम बिल्ड कर सकते हो कि नहीं, you know. And
पैसा is not a differentiator.
पैसा is
now.
not like at this moment the cost of starting business is zero.
Yeah.
Just go on mydukaan.io and sign up. Right? You have your e-commerce store ready. You have like 10 days free trial. Even if you don't own the t-shirt का factory, यू कैन गेस कि लाइक इस टाइप ऑफ टी शर्ट जो मैं बेचना चाहता हूँ उसके लिए डिमांड आ सकता है कि नहीं. तुम्हें तो ऑर्डर आने दो ना, ऑर्डर आने दो, तुम कैंसिल मार्क कर दो, बट एटलीस्ट यू वैलिडेटेड के लिए ये टी शर्ट चलेगा या नहीं चलेगा. सो अल्टीमेटली व्हाट डिड आई से कि लाइक कॉस्ट ऑफ स्टार्टिंग बिजनेस इज जीरो. स्केलिंग में आ सकता है बट दैट्स अ लेटर पार्ट. पहले तो बेसिक फिगर आउट करो,
तब तक तो you would have got
exactly.
cash also,
So everybody should give it a try.
Yeah.
Build something of their own. Then there are founders who already have started something who still don't know like which direction I should go in, or I'm about to, you know, shut down because like my runway is over and so on. There I think you absolutely have to cut down all the expenses and run on like bare minimum skeleton and just survive this period. If you survive for like next 1 year, I think for the next cycle you will be the hero for sure.
Yeah.
क्योंकि अगर रहोगे नहीं फिर तो नेक्स्ट टाइम जो पैसा बांटने वाला है टाइगर.
I think I mean I heard this amazing quote, right? Entrepreneurship is about surviving long enough to get lucky.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So in order for you to be at the right place at the right time, you have to be there in the first place.
You have to be always there in the office coding.
So tomorrow we're doing this event and the theme is to do more with less.
Okay.
Right? We're going to have a couple of founders talk about their profitability journeys. Right? One of them, interestingly, funded business, just completely turned around in 5 months and is profitable right now. And another one who has not taken, a dollar of funding, built a very capital efficient business, grew to, about 10 plus countries scale globally. And then now he's taken about $5 million or whatever, right?
Okay.
So I think it's great that we're talking about all of this profitability, sustainability.
True.
I think वो बहुत मतलब ऑप्टिमिज्म में ये सब, I mean,
यार ये
it
देखो
became
तुम कितना भी ये ट्राई कर लो, नेक्स्ट जब सेम पार्टी होगा तो
again,
everybody is again going to get tempted to run IPL ads. Everybody is going to spend money, including myself.
Right.
I'm no different.
right.
मेरा भी like I remember like एक पर्टिकुलर मंथ में we spent over like $1.2 million on the marketing.
Wow.
Although I'm the guy कि like नहीं भाई इतना spend नहीं करना, but वो हो जाता है भाई, मतलब तुम नहीं उसको ये कर सकते. Although a lot of people don't acknowledge this in the media and all that, but I was like,
You have to ride the wave.
और क्या like
You have to ride the wave, but be sensible enough that
to
what game
figure
you're
out,
playing.
And you should have like that kind of capability to like even if something is like going wrong, how you are going to quickly turn
Pivot.
around and pivot and whatever it could be.
I want your thoughts on ONDC, right? I know that you have a certain perspective, right, which is quite different from the norm. People believe that it will transform e-commerce in India, right, and that it will truly democratize digital for everyone, right, from your kirana guy to whoever else you can think of, right? Is it that kind of utopia that's been painted? What are some of the challenges you see, and what is your opinion on that?
like although I want ONDC to be a grand success and everything should go absolutely well as it happened in case of UPI, lot of times तुम्हारा रियल लाइफ डिफरेंट होता है. लाइक तुम्हें भले ही लगे कि नाचोस के साथ सालसा फ्री में मिलना चाहिए, बट वो रियलिटी है नहीं. तुम्हें दोनों अलग अलग खरीदना पड़ता है. ठीक है, आइडियली तो आना चाहिए ना, नाचोस के पैकेट में सालसा आना चाहिए, क्यों नहीं आता? तुम्हें अलग से खरीदना पड़ता है. सो द रियलिटी ऑफ ONDC, यू टेल मी कि अभी के जो 4 लाइन मारे ना, वो छोड़ के और क्या पता है ONDC के बारे में?
नहीं, अभी वैलिडेट हो रहा है ना. आई मीन
सेम चीज. लाइक ONDC आई थिंक स्टार्टेड प्रीटी मच लाइक व्हेन दुकान स्टार्टेड. You should have seen like at least one guy. Are you using ONDC or have you even tried to?
Yeah.
I have 0 people across my circle who use ONDC. I don't think like it takes this much time. And first of all, you don't need a protocol for commerce. The internet is a protocol. ये WordPress में 10 साल पहले भी होता था सेम चीज. कॉमर्स अभी होता है, वो कॉमर्स भी होता है.
See, the basic philosophy is that your storefront can be different, your logistics provider can be different.
No, everything was there since beginning.
All of that can be
everything different. Is like everything has been there like since beginning.
I agree, but then that was owned by one particular entity.
How does that matter? How does that matter? So see, I'll tell you basic difference. UPI is a grand success because a simple solution or simple problem that you are solving is a payment to the next guy. तुम स्कैन करते हो, पेमेंट उसके अकाउंट में, टाटा बाय बाय. ONDC, like for ONDC to work, first you have to set up the store, then you have to make sure कि like it is properly set up, पूरा कैटलॉगिंग किया है, वो किसी और ने किया है. फिर तीसरा तुम्हारा आ जाता है डिलीवरी वाला. अब डिलीवरी वाले में भी डिलीवरी के पहले वाला है, डिलीवरी का रैपर लेयर आ जाता है कि जो एग्रीगेटर है पूरा, कि शिप रॉकेट आ जाएगा. नाउ शिप रॉकेट हैज लाइक 10 integrations विद लाइक इंडिविजुअल डिलीवरी कंपनीज. फिर एक ऑर्डर तुम्हारा फेल हो जाता है. नाउ हु इज गोइंग टू टेक अ रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ऑफ दैट फेल ट्रांजेक्शन? एंड मेजॉरिटी ऑफ द केसेस में यही होने वाला है कि लाइक जस्ट बिकॉज वन प्लेयर फक्स अप, the end experience of the consumer goes for the toss. Why do you think like people would, okay, if I give you option to work on this hybrid system which is owned by somebody, I don't even know like if government owns it or no, but वहाँ पे तुम्हें हमेशा कुछ ना कुछ तो प्रॉब्लम है. either पेमेंट फटा है, ये डिलीवरी फटा है, कुछ ना कुछ तो फटा है, ऑर्डर डिले हो रहा है, प्रॉपर GST का इनवॉइस नहीं मिल रहा. वर्सेस यू आर ऑर्डरिंग फूड फ्रॉम स्विगी वेयर ही टेक्स द इंडिविजुअल ऑर्डर का डिलीवरी की राइट फ्रॉम कब वो डिलीवर होने वाला है से लेके कितना पैसा मैं काटने वाला हूँ, सब कुछ. which one you would choose?
No, you always prefer one throat to choke.
Exactly. And right? I think unless and until you run it as a marketplace, there is no way that somebody could build this business.
I do believe that it can exist as an add-on to whatever infrastructure
but it won't make like big difference, right? At least like in the category that they are claiming this is going to be useful to, especially kirana. For example, with the kirana stores who are listed on the ONDC, I know people will still go on Zepto and Instamart and all that. And ultimately, if you as an individual, if you are not getting any business out of that, why would you put efforts?
Right.
That is the problem. And end consumer knows like which is the best platform to buy. He knows कि like जिसका responsibility है ना पूरा ये.
So 2-3 things, right? So one is I don't think it will displace existing users from a Zepto or a Swiggy or a Uber or Ola. I don't think it will, right? I don't think that is going to happen.
That is never going to happen. That is for sure.
But there are new users, right, who might adopt this, right? Maybe tier 2, tier 3, whatever, etc. I mean, they might adapt it. For whom that cost difference makes a difference.
No.
For whom
it's not going to work. So I'll tell you why.
Niche store, right, which is not viable for Swiggy, which is not viable for some other platform.
Okay.
Right, that niche product or service is important.
See, even if you consider Swiggy, for example,
right.
Swiggy has reached up to Satara and even in Karad, which is like the taluka place in my place. Although it's not reached to my village, तो Swiggy को भी पता है कि उस टीयर में my business model won't make any sense because सुमित की मॉम 10 रुपए नहीं देगी डिलीवरी के लिए. सो ऑल्दो उधर के कस्टमर्स को चाहिए कि यार मैं घर पे राजा ऐसा बैठा रहूँ, कोई तो आके ऑर्डर डिलीवर करेगा. दैट इज नेवर गोइंग टू हैपन बिकॉज देयर इज नोबडी हु इज गोइंग टू पे यू फॉर द डिलीवरिंग द ऑर्डर एंड ऑल दोस काइंड ऑफ थिंग्स. इफ यू आर कंसिडरिंग दिस टू वर्क ऑन द हाइपर लोकल, टू टाइप्स ऑफ बिजनेस, राइट? आइदर यू आर डिलीवरिंग विद इन लाइक 3 किलोमीटर टाइप ऑफ रेडियस, वहाँ पे तो छोड़ ही दो. 5 रुपये मेरी माँ अभी तक सब्जी वाले के साथ झगड़े करती है.
You can't beat
You can't do that. So that is out of question. The hyperlocal kirana wala. And nobody goes on e-commerce platform in second tier and like third tier city to explore कि नए बिस्किट्स कौन से आए. वो भाई 10 साल पहले पारे जी खा रहा था, अब गुड्डे खा रहा है, उसको पता है बाजू वाले स्टोर पे मिलता है. Second type of categories in this businesses is like something which you find across like different states and all that. So selfie stick. दिल्ली में कुछ तो एक अलग सा टाइप का सेल्फी स्टिक मिल रहा है, मेरे को वहाँ से मंगाना है. You go on Google, you find there and you seek like marketplaces. You don't go on ONDC at all. Now सर्च वाला तो तुम्हारा ब्लॉक है पूरा मीडियम. फेसबुक पे वो ऐड रन नहीं कर सकता, उसका डिमांड आ रहा है सारा पेटीएम के ऐप से. अब पेटीएम ने लिस्ट कहाँ पे की है? कोने में कचरे में, जहाँ पे तुम्हें 1% भी क्लिक नहीं मिलेंगे. अब वहाँ पे तुम्हारे 3000 सेलर्स लिस्टेड. ऑर्डर किसको मिलेगा? ऊपर के 1-2 को. इट्स नॉट गोइंग टू वर्क. पीरियड. लेट्स सी. एंड आई हैव सीन लाइक पीपल हैव लाइक started threatening somebody who is posting against ONDC and all that. I've seen like that kind of thing as well.
I mean, there are crazy people on the internet for anything. But look at Namayatri, for example, right? I mean, Namayatri is a classic example. They're doing about 100,000 rides right now. एक जो होता है ना, I mean, UPI movement for X. Right? ये तो बहुत पॉपुलर फ्रेज हो गया है. I mean, UPI movement for healthcare, UPI movement for this, that for commerce, etc. No, I mean, UPI, I think it's a once in a century event, right? We have to be careful about what we say, right? I mean, we'll have to wait it out.
Yeah.
I personally feel that someone has to validate that network, and it's not going to be easy.
So that's what I validated, right? Like the 10 million downloads I had in Dukaan. Right. This is the exact TG which you are building like ONDC or like whoever is building ONDC for. And then like this morning I saw कि ONDC insurance भी देगा, ये भी देगा, policy भी देगा, वो भी देगा. Then I think they are not clearly like what they want to do in life. इंश्योरेंस पॉलिसी और बीच में कोई तो वो भी घुसा दे कि like sell your NFTs on ONDC. What the fuck? You go and search for this. Sell your NFT on ONDC. And as I told you, right? Like I'm not against ONDC, but this is what I see because I've been building, the similar kind of business, right?
Right.
Dukaan, if you think about it, storefront भी मैं दे रहा हूँ तुम्हें बना के, पेमेंट का कलेक्शन, द कैश फ्री, रेजर पे, स्ट्राइप, सब कुछ ऑलरेडी लिंक्ड है. Then for themes and all that, you already have the theme editor. For different plugins, there is a plugin marketplace. Then why people are not using it? Why they are not successful? Why majority of the people like don't get orders? Why only D2C brands who have like enough money or like only? It is going to be exactly same, right? Like and मेरे केस में तो मैंने इतना अच्छे से प्रोडक्ट बनाया तो है. ONDC जाके जरा यूज करके देखो. स्टोर में घर पे जाने तक मेरे को स्टोर एक सेटअप करके दिखा दो बस ONDC पे. That's your assignment.
You're right. I mean, in the sense that, I mean, it's very conceptual at this point of time, very early at this point of time, and there's a lot of hype around it, right? Let's wait until that utopia. I mean, at least 1% of that happens, right?
Absolutely.
Coimbatore में बैठा है, and then he's getting orders from Surat, and he has कुछ
दुकान के थ्रू आएगा उसका दुकान के थ्रू आएगा उसको ONDC के थ्रू नहीं
लेना देना नहीं है किसी से, and then magically order आ रहा है and delivery भी हो रहा है.
That is going to happen via दुकान.
Well, I mean,
that's what I posted. Like, okay, so when it was like really early days for Dukaan, I particularly remember this tweet जहाँ पे I wore this orange color का पांडा का t-shirt which got delivered from सूरत का एक seller, and I had a phone call with him कि सर बोलता है 10 साल में first time मैं अपना t-shirt इधर से कोई तो और state में बेच रहा हूँ, सही लगा बहुत.
मस्त.
That is already happening. जिसको करना है वो कर रहा है already. उसको पता है दुकान पे जाके होगा ये चीज़. I'm telling you the same thing कि ये 10 साल पहले भी था. मैंने आके थोड़ा इजी बना दिया. somebody is trying to make the story like बहुत बड़े national level पे like this is going to be a UPI movement which I don't see happening, although I want it should happen. See, it's not going to impact my business at all because by that time I will have like hundreds of enterprises from US signed up for Dukaan, so I have already moved past that stage. But giving you today's analysis ki like where it is as compared to what has been promised a year or like year and a half back, it's nowhere close to that. You open one store ना, you तो understand tech, you understand product, you understand everything. ठीक है, तुम स्टोर बना दो, तू एक ऑर्डर प्लेस कर देना इसके ऊपर और मेरे को स्क्रीनशॉट भेज दो दोनों कि ऑर्डर आ गया एंड द एक्सपीरियंस वाज ब्यूटीफुल. नाउ यू ट्राई टू डू द सेम थिंग वाया दुकान वे. ठीक है, perfect.
No, I mean, it's see, at this point of time, compare नहीं कर सकते हो, right?
Compare
I mean,
तो नहीं कर सकते.
I mean, like I said, in Dukaan, there's one person who's controlling the entire end user experience versus another one where we don't know. It's random, right?
No, exactly. That's the point, right? It's not random, right? Like one person is not controlling everything. Even in Dukaan, what I am controlling is just your storefront.
Right.
the deliveries are done by like 10
No,
different people.
correct.
The-
But it's
the payment-
integrated, right? That whole experience is thought through.
So ONDC, what do you think? Like what they are planning to build? Okay, so when you say ONDC, what do you imagine?
I imagine a storefront.
Where are you going to build the storefront?
Is there I mean, I will probably look at an ONDC app, right?
Open search for ONDC and if there is an app. See, that's exactly where the problem starts.
Right.
कि मान लिया ब्रो मेरे को चाहिए सब कुछ कि सब अच्छा हो जाए इंडिया के साथ, पीपल शुड गो सेल ऑनलाइन ब्ला 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 ब्ला, बट नो नहीं हो पा रहा हुआ अभी.
Right.
मतलब प्रोडक्ट बनाने में मौत आएगी लोगों की. मतलब इफ आई जस्ट स्टार्ट एक्सप्लेनिंग यू द प्रोडक्ट लिस्टिंग वाला पार्ट ना, आई कैन स्पेंड लाइक 2 hours जस्ट एक्सप्लेनिंग कि प्रोडक्ट में एट्रीब्यूट्स, स्कीमास, डिफरेंट कलर्स, प्राइसेस, बंडल्स, डिस्काउंट्स एंड 50 इतनी चीज़ें आती है. फॉर दैट यू हैव टू बी लाइक crazy, involved with 15 more people who are going to code with you till like 4 a.m. in the night. Then you would be able to ship something.
अच्छा चलो
आप
मान
until then-
गया.
ठीक. अपन एक नेक्स्ट पॉडकास्ट करेंगे ONDC पे 2 साल के बाद में, इसके बाद में सेव द डेट.
Yeah. No, I mean, I want it to happen, man. I want it to happen. So
I want
let's
it to
see,
happen too.
right? Maybe like a Beam or something. I mean, there will be an ONDC app and there will be like all of those things. देखते हैं. I mean, like
Yeah,
we'll
absolutely.
see, right? So, dude, how do you have this courage of conviction? कि like जो मन में है, I mean, बोल देते हो ऐसे,
मैं
right?
वैसे ही हुआ यार पहले से.
I mean, is
It
that
saves
something?
time. Like it saves like a lot of time. For both,
Because I
both the
feel
people.
like that's a very important attribute for an entrepreneur, right?
That's a very important. That is
Right?
for sure.
Because I mean, anything you want to do, there are always 100 people who say that can't be done, right? You still have to be crazy enough to kind of say that, okay, I understand, whatever, or you can say what you want and I'll do my thing.
That comes from like 2 things, right? Either you have experience, you have seen that kind of thing in the past, in the first hand, or you are like completely idiot who could be true as well. Right? Ki whenever somebody thought ki like I am going to make a iPod which is going to have like 100, 200, 500 songs in the pocket, I would say like क्या बोल रहे हैं? But he turned out to be like smart man. तो ये बहुत कम बार होता है हिस्ट्री में. How many times you have seen like examples like Steve Jobs, right? Very limited time. या फिर तुम तब इतना श्योर होते हो अपने आप के बारे में एंड यू आर लाइक सुपर स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड व्हेन यू ऑलरेडी हैव सीन द सेम पिक्चर. I have seen all these things like commerce and all that first hand, like with these hands. I personally have spent like at least like $10-20 million of housing with like not just housing, but at least like 100 other companies to drive them growth on the internet. तो मेरे को पता है लाइक राइट फ्रॉम तुम्हारा प्रोडक्ट से लेके तुम्हारा कन्वर्जन ऑप्टिमाइजेशन से लेके तुम्हारा ईमेल मार्केटिंग का सेटअप कैसे करना है, जहाँ पे मेरे को 10 मिलियन ईमेल्स भेजने विदाउट गेटिंग इनटू द स्पैम फोल्डर ऑफ दैट. बिकॉज इफ समबडी इज पेइंग यू to do the experiments, then I don't think like anybody can compete with you. Because rest of the audience who is going to compete with you is going to be कोहोर्ट 13 के चौथे बैच में से हूँ मैं जिसने डिजिटल मार्केटिंग पढ़ा है. भाई मैंने $1 million उड़ाया वहाँ पे, ठीक है. तो तेरा अंडरस्टैंडिंग कन्वर्जन ऑप्टिमाइजेशन का और मेरा ना जमीन आसमान का डिफरेंस है. दैट्स व्हाट आई थिंक लाइक मी एंड सुभाष बोथ ऑफ अस हैव, कि रियल एक्सपीरियंस ऑफ स्पेंडिंग रियल मनी ऑन रियल कंपनीज. तो कि दिस इज बुलशिट, दिस इज गुड, दिस कुड बी गुड, लेट्स गिव इट अ ट्राई, छोड़ दो.
Skin in the game. Absolute skin in the game.
Yeah. And like what else you have to lose? Like you go back, घर जाकर होगा 2,000 रुपये रेंट है वहाँ पे घर पे, और क्या मतलब यूजुअली.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dude, this is the most fun conversation I've had in a long time. I mean, you do podcasts, right? And it's very grateful for the opportunity, right? That I get to learn from really smart people, like someone who has spent $10-12 million budget and someone who has been.
See, I'm not naming myself smart. I'm just sharing my experience.
I mean, like you know it, right?
Yeah,
I mean, you like it's an amazing opportunity that I get to sit down with people like you, and they are sharing their life's wisdom in that 1 hour, right? But yeah, I mean, there are conversations like this, I mean, which is like super fun as well, right?
Absolutely.
So, I mean, I really enjoyed this conversation. So, thanks so
Same
much.
here. Thank you so much for having me.
Being on the podcast.
And save the date 2 years after. ठीक है. चलो, I'm going to.
We'll hope for the best.
Figure out how I'm going to launch my store on ONDC now. ठीक है.
All right. Thanks so
So-
much. Thanks so much for being on the podcast,
Thank you,
Sumit.
thank you.
And hopefully we'll host you in 2 years.
Absolutely.
And we'll talk about the ONDC bit.
Perfect. Sounds cool.
Right. Thanks so much for joining us, folks. And if you liked this content, don't forget to share, subscribe, all of the good stuff. And keep coming back for more, I suppose.